Imagine this: a billionaire drowning in grief, a sick mother fighting to stay alive, and two hungry kids alone in New York City. One freezing night, a little girl sings on a subway and unknowingly changes their lives forever. But what happens when a dark figure from the past tries to tear their new family apart? Stay with us, because this story will break your heart and then mend it in ways you never expected. Dear friend, what you're about to experience is not just a story. It's a deeply human journey about lost resilience and the quiet, unexpected ways love finds us when we need it most. If this is your first time here, I invite you to drop a comment and tell us where you're watching from. We love hearing your voice. And if you're someone who believes in second chances, in the hidden strength of ordinary people, and in stories that stay with you long after they end, consider subscribing and tapping the bell icon. We share moments that matter. Thank you for being part of this one. Now, let's begin. They say that sometimes the smallest moments can shatter the darkest nights. It was one of those bone-chilling December evenings in New York City when the cold felt like it seeped into your very bones. The streets buzzed with holiday shoppers, lights twinkled in every window, but beneath all that festivity, one man sat completely alone. Ethan Walker, billionaire tech entrepreneur, had lost everything that mattered just 3 weeks ago. The only thing he couldn't buy, rebuild, or win back his 7-year-old son Lucas. A boating accident. One moment of distraction, a tragic mistake that would haunt him forever. Since then, Ethan had become a shadow of the man who once graced magazine covers and commanded boardrooms. On this night, seeking escape from the cold emptiness of his penthouse, he found himself riding the subway, a place he hadn't set foot in for over a decade. He didn't know where he was going. Maybe he didn't care anymore. The train screeched to a stop at Grand Central. A flood of passengers came in, and among them was a little girl. No older than 8, her cheeks flushed pink from the cold, her worn boots soaked. She held the tiny hand of her younger brother, maybe 6 years old. They looked exhausted, clutching a dented tin cup with a few coins rattling at the bottom. Then, out of nowhere, her voice rose above the hum of the train. "You are my sunshine, my only sunshine." It was not a polished voice, but it was hauntingly pure. And in that moment, time seemed to stand still. The girl, Mia Grace, sang softly to her brother Noah, but her voice carried through the subway car, touching every soul within earshot, including Ethan's. It wasn't just the song, it was what it meant. It was the song Ethan used to sing to Lucas at bedtime, the very last song he had sung to his son. The same song that now tore open the dam of grief he'd fought to keep sealed. Without warning, tears streamed down his face. His body shook with silent sobs. No one noticed or pretended not to except the 2 children. When Mia finished the song, her eyes met Ethan's. They were the eyes of someone who had seen too much for her age, and yet they held a kind of strength, a resilience that was both heartbreaking and beautiful. "Sir, are you okay?" she asked quietly. Her question, so innocent and pure, broke Ethan's heart all over again. He wiped his face, nodding. He tried to speak, but no words came out. This was a man used to controlling everything. But in this moment, a child's voice had reached places no therapist, no friend, no amount of wealth had been able to touch. Gathering himself, Ethan looked at the children more closely. Their clothes were threadbare, their cheeks hollow. It became clear they were not here by choice. "Are you alone?" he asked gently. "My mommy is sick," Mia whispered. "We're trying to get money for her medicine." Noah clutched Mia's coat tighter. At that instant, something shifted inside Ethan Walker. Grief had made him numb, but now, staring at these children so vulnerable yet brave, he felt something else rise, a need to help. A need to matter again. He knew that reaching out could complicate his already fragile life. But how could he turn away? "You must be hungry," he said softly. "Let me buy you some dinner." Mia hesitated, protective of her brother. But something in Ethan's voice, a raw honesty, made her trust him. As the subway slowed for the next stop, Ethan took a deep breath. For the first time in weeks, he had a purpose beyond surviving another day. They stepped off the train together, three strangers drawn together by one simple song. The story should have ended there, a kind stranger, a meal, and a forgotten encounter. But fate had other plans. Because what Ethan didn't know yet was that this small act of kindness would set off a chain of events that would transform all of their lives in ways none of them could have imagined. And what Mia couldn't know was that the man she had sung to the sad stranger on the subway was not just any man. He was a grieving millionaire who had lost everything, and who was about to find a new family he never knew he needed. Before we continue, ask yourself, what would you do if life gave you a second chance in the most unexpected way? Hold that thought, because in the next chapter you'll see how a billionaire and two struggling children would soon become inseparable, and how love and healing can grow in even the coldest of winters. Stay with me. The journey is just beginning. The restaurant was nothing fancy, a small diner tucked into the corner of a quiet street, just a few blocks from the subway station. Its neon sign flickered against the night sky, casting a soft glow on the freshly fallen snow. Inside, the hum of conversation blended with the sizzle of the griddle. The warmth was a stark contrast to the biting cold they had left behind. Ethan Walker held the door open as Mia and Noah shuffled inside, their wide eyes darting around the unfamiliar space. The waitress looked up briefly, surprised to see a sharply dressed man in a designer coat, accompanied by two clearly underdressed children. But to her credit, she said nothing, simply leading them to a booth near the window. As they slid into the worn vinyl seats, Ethan ordered grilled cheese sandwiches and hot chocolate without asking. He had noticed Mia glancing longingly at the picture of the meal on the menu and decided that tonight they deserved comfort food. The children sat in silence, their small hands folded tightly in their laps. Noah leaned against his sister, his eyes heavy with exhaustion. It was clear they were wary, unsure of what to make of this strange, kind man who had appeared out of nowhere. Trying to bridge the gap, Ethan spoke softly. "My name is Ethan. What are your names?" Mia hesitated, then answered, "I'm Mia. This is my brother Noah. How old are you?" Ethan asked gently. "I'm 8. Noah is 6. Their voices were so small, so cautious, that Ethan's heart ached. He could only imagine what they had endured to be riding the subway alone at this hour. He wanted to ask more questions, but didn't want to overwhelm them. When the food arrived, the children's initial hesitation gave way to hunger. They ate ravenously, their eyes lighting up with each bite. Watching them, Ethan felt a pang of guilt. How many times had he taken such simple pleasures for granted? As they ate, Mia began to open up, perhaps sensing that Ethan's kindness was genuine. "Our mommy is sick," she said quietly. "She's in the hospital. We were trying to get money to help her." Ethan leaned forward, his expression softening. "Where is she?" "She was at the shelter on 34th Street, Mia explained. But they said she needed to go to the hospital. We haven't seen her since. They wouldn't let us stay." Noah's lip quivered, and he buried his face in Mia's shoulder. She wrapped an arm around him protectively. The sight was almost too much for Ethan to bear. Two children forced to fend for themselves in a city that often ignored the most vulnerable. "Do you know which hospital?" Ethan asked. Mia shook her head. "No. The shelter lady called an ambulance. We don't know where they took her." Ethan's mind raced. He could leverage his resources, make calls, and find their mother. But more than that, he felt an overwhelming need to shield these children from the harshness of the world they'd been thrust into. He reached across the table, his voice steady. "You're safe now. I promise you we'll find your mom." Mia's eyes filled with tears. No one had made them a promise in a long time, and something about the way Ethan said it like he meant it with every fiber of his being made her believe him. For Ethan, this moment was a turning point. For weeks, he had existed in a fog of grief, unable to face the world without his son. But here, with these two fragile souls looking to him with hope, he felt a flicker of purpose. It wasn't about money or status. It was about doing something that mattered. As the children finished their meal, Ethan made a quiet call to his driver, instructing him to prepare for an unexpected trip. Then he turned back to Mia and Noah. "I have a safe place where you can sleep tonight," he said. "It's warm, and you'll have your own beds." Mia's protective instincts flared. "Why are you helping us?" Ethan didn't shy away from the question. "Because I know what it feels like to lose someone, and because no child should have to go through what you're going through alone." A tear slipped down Mia's cheek. She wiped it quickly but nodded. For the first time in what felt like forever, someone saw them. Someone cared. The ride to Ethan's penthouse was surreal for the children. They sat wide-eyed in the back seat of the sleek black car, their small faces pressed against the windows as the city lights whirred past. Mia whispered to Noah about how this felt like a dream, one they didn't dare believe was real. Ethan watched them through the rearview mirror, his heart aching. He thought of Lucas, how he would have been fascinated by the lights, how he would have filled the car with laughter. The pain was sharp, but tonight it was tempered by something new, a desire to protect these children, to give them a sliver of hope in a world that had been so unkind. At the penthouse, Mia and Noah clung to each other as they entered the grand marble foyer. The space was elegant, cold, untouched by warmth since Lucas's death, but through their eyes it transformed into a sanctuary. "Is this your house?" Mia asked in awe. "It's just a place," Ethan replied softly. "Tonight it's yours too." He led them to the guest room where fresh sheets awaited. Noah climbed into the bed immediately, clutching a worn teddy bear that Ethan's housekeeper had found. Mia lingered looking up at Ethan. "Will you really help us find Mommy?" she asked. Ethan knelt to her level, meeting her gaze. "I promise." As he left the room, Mia's quiet voice followed him. "Thank you." Alone in the living room, Ethan sat by the window, staring at the city below. He thought of that subway ride, the song that had pierced through his grief. That simple melody had done what nothing else could. It had reawakened his heart. The lesson was clear. Sometimes it's not the grand gestures that change a life, but the smallest acts of kindness, a song, a meal, a promise kept. As dawn approached, Ethan knew one thing with certainty. This was no longer about obligation. It was about connection, and their journey together was only beginning. The sun had barely begun to rise over New York City when Ethan Walker made the first of many phone calls. His penthouse, usually silent in the early morning hours, now buzzed with purpose. In the guest room, Mia and Noah slept soundly for the first time in days, wrapped in warmth and safety they had nearly forgotten existed. But their mother was still missing, and Ethan couldn't rest until she was found. He started with the shelters. A call to the 34th Street shelter revealed a crucial piece of information. Claire Grace had been transported to Mount Sinai Hospital under emergency circumstances. The staff didn't know her current condition, only that she had been gravely ill when the ambulance arrived. Ethan didn't hesitate. He arranged for his driver to prepare the car and left a note for Mia and Noah explaining where he was going and promising to return with news. He didn't want them waking up alone and confused. At Mount Sinai, the sterile scent of antiseptic mixed with the low hum of monitors and hushed voices. Ethan approached the nurse's station, heart pounding. "I'm looking for Claire Grace. She was brought in a few days ago. Her children are safe. I need to see her. The nurse, a kind-faced woman named Teresa, checked the records. Room 514. She's listed as stable but weak. We've been trying to locate her family. I'm here, Ethan said simply. As he approached room 514, he hesitated outside the door, gathering himself. The woman inside had no idea who he was or what had transpired since she'd been admitted. He knew trust wouldn't come easily. But this wasn't about him. It was about reuniting a mother with her children. Claire lay in the hospital bed, pale and fragile beneath a thin blanket. Her once vibrant face was drawn, eyes closed in exhausted sleep. The faint rise and fall of her chest was the only reassurance that life still held her. Ethan's breath caught at the sight. How could someone so young look so worn by life's trials? A soft knock stirred her. Claire's eyes fluttered open, confusion clouding her gaze, until they focused on the tall man standing in the doorway. Instinctively, she tried to sit up, but a wave of weakness forced her back. "Who are you?" she whispered, voice raspy. "My name is Ethan Walker," he began carefully. "I met Mia and Noah last night. They're safe. They've been worried about you." Tears sprang to Claire's eyes, spilling over before she could stop them. "My babies, where are they? At my home. They're warm, fed, and safe. I promised them I'd find you." Her shoulders shook with silent sobs. "I thought I'd lost them." "You haven't," Ethan said gently, pulling a chair closer to her bedside. "They love you very much. They were so brave, trying to help you." Claire's gaze searched his face, wary yet grateful. "Why would you do this? You don't even know us." "Because I lost someone too," Ethan replied, voice tight with emotion. "And no child should have to face this world alone. No mother should have to fear for her children." For a moment, silence hung between them, thick with unspoken pain. Then Claire reached out a trembling hand, which Ethan instinctively took. "Thank you," she whispered. "I can't repay you." "There's nothing to repay," he said softly. Later that afternoon, after speaking with the doctors and ensuring Claire's condition was stable, Ethan returned to the penthouse. Mia and Noah rushed to him the moment he stepped through the door. "Did you find Mommy?" Mia asked, eyes wide with hope and fear. Ethan knelt before them. "I did. She's safe. She's getting better. And she misses you very much." Noah burst into tears, burying his face in Ethan's shoulder. Mia clung to her brother, sobbing quietly. Ethan held them both, his own eyes misting. In that moment, it wasn't about Billionaire or orphaned children. It was about hearts finding solace in shared pain. The next day, with permission from the hospital, Ethan brought Mia and Noah to see their mother. The reunion was one of those moments that etched itself permanently into memory. Claire's eyes filled with tears as her children entered the room. "My babies," she cried, arms outstretched despite her weakness. Mommy, Mia, and Noah rushed into her embrace, sobbing uncontrollably. Claire held them as tightly as her frail arms would allow, kissing their heads, whispering words of love and reassurance. Ethan watched from the doorway, heart aching yet full. He thought of Lucas, and how desperately he had wished for one more moment like this. A chance to hold his son again. But life had granted him a different gift, a chance to help another family heal. As the days passed, Claire grew stronger, buoyed by the knowledge that her children were safe. Ethan visited daily, bringing books and small gifts, sitting with Claire, and getting to know the woman whose strength had kept her family afloat through unimaginable hardship. Claire shared her story in quiet fragments. How she had been a piano teacher. How illness and mounting medical bills had stripped away everything. How her husband had abandoned them, unable to face the reality of her diagnosis. And how through it all she had fought to protect Mia and Noah. Ethan listened, sometimes offering words of comfort, sometimes simply holding her hand when the pain became too much. In those moments, a bond began to form, one rooted in shared loss, mutual respect, and a growing trust neither had expected. One evening, as the city lights twinkled outside the hospital window, Claire looked at Ethan with tear-filled eyes. "You saved my family," she said. "I'll never be able to thank you enough." "You don't need to," Ethan replied softly. "They've saved me too." The truth was, since the moment Mia sang on that subway, something inside Ethan had begun to shift. The darkness that had consumed him after Lucas's death was no longer impenetrable. There was light now, fragile but real. The lesson was clear. Healing often comes when we least expect it through the connections we never saw coming. Acts of love and hope, no matter how small, can change the course of a life. And though none of them could yet see the road ahead, one thing was certain. This was no longer about charity or obligation. A new kind of family was taking shape, one built not on blood, but on love loss, and the unyielding power of hope. The air inside the courtroom was stifling, heavy with tension. Every seat was filled. Reporters, curious onlookers, and court officials watched as one of New York's most unlikely custody battles unfolded, a billionaire businessman standing against a man from the shadows of a woman's painful past. At the heart of it all were two frightened children clutching their mother's hands. It had begun with a knock at Ethan Walker's penthouse door. Mia had answered first, only to find a stranger holding an official letter in one hand and wearing a smirk that chilled her to the bone. Ryan Mason, Claire's estranged ex-husband and the biological father of Mia and Noah, had resurfaced. Word of the family's newfound connection to Ethan had spread through media circles after an online article featured Ethan's unexpected shift from corporate titan to philanthropist. It took only days for Ryan, sensing opportunity, to file for full custody of the children. He hadn't seen them in years. His absence had been deliberate, leaving Claire to fend for herself during her illness and financial ruin. But now, with Ethan's wealth and public image involved, Ryan smelled leverage. The first time Claire read the custody petition, her hands trembled so violently she could barely hold the paper. "He's never wanted them," she whispered, tears spilling freely. "Not until now." Ethan's expression darkened. "He won't take them," he vowed. But beneath his calm exterior, anxiety churned. The legal system wasn't always kind to families like Claire's, especially when wealth and influence skewed perception. And Ethan knew that, despite his best efforts, he wasn't Lucas's father. He couldn't bear to see another child ripped from their mother's arms. They fought back with everything they had. Ethan's legal team, now devoted to this personal battle, worked tirelessly to prove Ryan's unfitness and abandonment. Claire, though weakened by stress, stood firm, her love for her children giving her a strength even illness could not touch. Throughout it all, Mia and Noah watched silently, sensing that the adults around them were fighting for their very future. Noah clung to his sister more often, now sleeping with the light on again. Mia, once the brave little singer, had grown quieter, watching every movement in the penthouse, as if waiting for it all to disappear. One evening, after yet another court preparation meeting, Ethan found Mia sitting alone by the large bay window overlooking the city. Her small figure seemed even smaller beneath the vast expanse of glass. "Hey, sunshine," he said softly, using the nickname Lucas had once adored, and that Mia had unknowingly reclaimed. "What's on your mind?" She looked up, her eyes too old for her years. "If he wins, do we have to go with him?" Ethan knelt beside her. "No one is going to take you from your mom, and you'll always have a home with us. That's a promise." Her lip quivered. "I'm scared." "So am I," Ethan admitted, his voice thick with emotion. "But being scared doesn't mean we give up." It was a simple moment, yet profound. In sharing their fear, they deepened their bond, and in that honesty Mia found courage. "Okay," she whispered, "then I won't give up either." The trial began on a cold Monday morning. Claire, wearing her best dress and a heart full of resolve, stood before the court, her frailty masked by fierce determination. Ethan sat at her side, not as a billionaire, but as a friend who had become family. Ryan's lawyers painted a convenient picture, a mother once unwell now living under the roof of a wealthy man whose intentions they insinuated were questionable. They suggested that Claire had used Ethan to regain custody of her children, that the children would be better off with their biological father regardless of his absence or motives. But Claire's lawyer fought back with equal force. Testimonies from the shelter's staff doctors and even the private school the children now attended spoke of her unwavering love and commitment to Mia and Noah. And then came the most unexpected moment of all. During a recess, Mia tugged at Claire's sleeve. "Can I say something to the judge?" Claire hesitated, unsure. But when the judge returned, Claire's lawyer made the request. After some deliberation, the judge agreed. Tiny and nervous, Mia stepped up to the witness stand. Her feet barely reached the floor. She looked up at the judge, clutching her repaired teddy bear, a gift from Ethan. "My name is Mia Grace," she began, voice trembling. "I know I'm just a kid, but I want to tell you about my mom. She loves us. She got sick, but never stopped loving us. And Mr. Ethan, he helped us when no one else would." Tears streamed down Claire's cheeks. Ethan's throat tightened painfully. Mia continued, "My dad left a long time ago. I don't remember him, but I do remember singing to my brother on the subway because I was scared. And that's when we met Mr. Ethan." She paused, then softly sang, "You are my sunshine, my only sunshine." Her voice echoed through the courtroom, raw and haunting. By the time she finished, there wasn't a dry eye in the room, not among the spectators, not among the jury, not even the judge. "I just want to stay with my mommy and my brother, and Mr. Ethan, too, because we're family now." The silence that followed was deafening. When the verdict finally came, the judge's voice was steady. "Full custody remains with Claire Grace." The court recognizes the support and stability provided by Mr. Walker and encourages that bond to continue. Relief crashed over Claire like a wave. She clutched her children, sobbing openly. Ethan placed a steadying hand on her shoulder, his own eyes glistening. Later that night, back at the penthouse, Claire whispered through tears, "I don't know how to thank you." "You already have," Ethan replied softly. "You gave me a reason to fight again." In that moment, surrounded by love that had been forged in the crucible of loss and fear, they all understood. One, truth belonging isn't determined by blood or law. It's born of love, of the battles we fight for each other, and the unwavering hope that carries us through. 1 year later, the world looked entirely different for Ethan Walker, Claire, Grace, Mia, and Noah. The city still pulsed with its relentless energy, but within their small circle, life had slowed, softened, and opened in ways none of them could have imagined. What had begun as an unlikely meeting on a cold subway car had become the foundation of a new life built on trust, love, and the simple power of hope. Claire, her health stabilized through ongoing treatment, had returned to teaching part-time at a local music school, a dream she once thought lost forever. Her days were now filled with the sound of young voices and the gentle notes of piano keys, a rhythm of life that reminded her daily of how far they had come. Watching Mia and Noah thrive had given her strength through even the hardest moments. They were flourishing in their new school, their days now filled with friends, laughter, and curiosity instead of uncertainty and fear. As for Ethan, he had stepped away from the relentless grind of the corporate world. His sister now managed the day-to-day operations of the company, allowing him to focus on the newly established Walker Foundation an initiative dedicated to supporting single-parent families and children facing hardships like those Claire and her children had endured. For Ethan, this was no PR move. It was personal. He had come to understand that healing one's own heart often meant helping others find light in the darkness. On a crisp spring weekend, they traveled to Ethan's family lake house in upstate New York, a place he hadn't visited since losing Lucas. The decision to return had not been easy, but it felt right. This time, he would not face the memories alone. The lake shimmered under the pale sunlight, a mirror to the sky above. Mia and Noah raced along the wooden dock, their laughter echoing across the water. Claire stood by Ethan, her hand finding his with a quiet familiarity that spoke volumes about how far their relationship had grown. Later that evening, after a simple dinner by the fire, Ethan led Claire to a quiet spot on the porch overlooking the lake. The children, tucked inside with books and warm blankets, had left the adults a rare moment of peace. "I used to bring Lucas here every summer," Ethan said softly, voice carrying the weight of memory. "I thought I'd never be able to come back." Claire squeezed his hand gently. "But you did. And look what you've built here now." He turned to her, eyes bright with something more than gratitude. "I want to share all of it with you, with Mia and Noah. Not because I feel obligated, because I love you. Because you all have given me a second chance." Her breath caught tears welling up. "I love you too, Ethan. I never thought I'd find someone who would fight for us the way you have." From the doorway, small footsteps interrupted the moment. Mia stood there, her teddy bear clutched tightly, a shy smile on her face. "Can we sing the song?" Ethan's heart swelled. Claire nodded, tears slipping down her cheeks. Together, the three of them, Mia, Noah, and Claire, began to sing softly, "You are my sunshine, my only sunshine." Their voices blended in harmony, the melody drifting into the cool night air. Ethan joined in, his voice breaking but strong with emotion. It was more than a song now. It was a thread that had woven their lives together, from grief to hope, from strangers to family. A song that had started a journey none of them had seen coming. Later, inside the warmth of the lake house, Ethan handed Claire a small box. Inside lay a simple silver key, a symbol of a new home, a new life. "It's for the apartment," he explained. "It's yours, officially. A place that belongs to all of us." Claire's hands trembled as she accepted the gift. "You have given us more than a home. You've given us a future." As the children drifted to sleep, Claire and Ethan sat quietly, the kind of silence that speaks of deep understanding. They knew the road ahead would not be without its challenges, but they also knew they would face them together. The lesson that had bound them through this incredible journey was simple yet profound. Family is not defined by blood alone. It is forged through love, through the courage to open one's heart, and through the simple everyday moments that become the most treasured memories. And so, on a night filled with stars reflected in the lake below, a new chapter began for Ethan, Claire, Mia, and Noah, not as strangers bound by circumstance, but as an unbreakable family forged by a song that had changed everything. At its core, this is not just a story about a billionaire and a struggling family. It's a story about how a single act of kindness, one simple song sung on a cold subway, can set in motion a chain of compassion that transforms lives. Through Ethan Walker's journey from grief to healing, Claire Grace's strength through adversity, and Mia and Noah's unbreakable hope, we are reminded of a simple but profound truth: human connection matters. In a world that often values wealth, success, and appearances above all else, it is love, empathy, and compassion that ultimately build the strongest bonds. Ethan could have ignored Mia's song, remained locked in his sorrow, and continued moving through life in isolation. Instead, he chose to listen. He chose to act, That single choice led not only to saving Mia and Noah from a tragic fate, but also to saving himself. Claire, despite her illness and years of hardship, fought to protect her children and accepted help when it mattered most, a courageous act in itself. And Mia and Noah, with their innocence and trust, reminded everyone around them of the purest form of resilience, the ability to hope even when the odds are against you. The moral lesson here is simple, yet powerful. Never underestimate the power of small acts of kindness. You never know whose life you might change by listening, caring, and showing up. Compassion costs nothing, but it can mean everything to someone else. In today's fast-moving and often divided world, this message feels more important than ever. We live in a time when many people feel unseen, unheard, and unsupported. Sometimes what they need is not a grand gesture, but someone willing to say, "I see you. You matter. I will stand beside you." And kindness is contagious. Ethan's choice to help Mia and Noah didn't just change their lives. It gave him a second chance at love and family. It reminded Claire that even in her darkest moments, there was hope. It taught Mia and Noah that goodness still exists in the world. So, as you carry this story with you, I encourage you to look for opportunities to offer that same kindness in your own life. Whether it's helping a neighbor listening to a friend, or extending grace to a stranger, you have the power to be a light in someone else's darkness. Thank you so much for watching this story. If it moved you as much as it moved us to tell it, please consider subscribing to our channel and giving this video a like. Your support inspires us to keep bringing you more powerful stories about love, resilience, and the incredible impact of compassion. Until next time, stay kind, stay hopeful, and remember, one small act can change everything.